Every night at 9:03 he passed the same camera, until one night he didn't. It started as a routine, a simple walk, same time, same route, same man. Locals called him the Night Walker, not as an insult, but as shorthand. He wasn't homeless or strange. He was polite, clean-cut, and predictably quiet. He just walked. Every night at precisely 9 p.m., he left his small apartment above the hardware store, crossed Main Street, past the old train depot, and disappeared down the trail that led behind the lake. Then, exactly 46 minutes later, he'd return. Same route, same unhurried stride, same posture. He did this every single night for 9 years. Rain, snow, heat, didn't matter. Until November 3rd, 2021. That night, the cameras saw something else. His name was Daniel Reeves. 47 years old, divorced, no children, former city engineer turned freelance surveyor after the department shut down. He'd lived in the same small Midwest town, Marston, Kansas, his entire life. Everyone knew him by sight, few knew him by voice. The owner of the hardware store said he paid cash, rarely spoke more than a few words. The librarian said he'd check out weather books, barometric pressure logs, old town maps. The waitress at the diner remembered one order, always the same: coffee, slice of pie to go. He wasn't rude, just quiet, predictable. A man who belonged to routine. No criminal record, no known medical conditions, no family in town. But everyone in Marston knew where he'd be each night. Right on schedule, walking toward the woods, head slightly bowed, hands in pockets. At 9:03 p.m., the first security camera on Main Street picked him up, just like always. The timestamp aligned perfectly with every night before. He crossed under the yellow streetlight near the depot, stepped off the curb, and headed toward the lake path. At 9:09 p.m., the second camera, one mounted outside the old Marston feed supply, caught him again, still calm, still walking normally. At 9:11, another camera from a nearby home security system picked up his reflection in a store window. And then, at 9:14, the trail camera by the lake recorded something new. The first frame showed Reeves stepping into the clearing. Calm, normal stride. The second showed him stop suddenly, halfway down the path. His head turned slightly left, as if he heard something. The third showed him taking a half step forward. The fourth, a blur. Then the feed cut out. When the trail camera reactivated 3 minutes later, the frame was empty. No Reeves, no movement, just still woods, and the faint flicker of a light deeper in the trees, as if something had reflected. That was the last visual record of Daniel Reeves. He wasn't reported missing until 2 days later. The clerk at the hardware store noticed his rent payment envelope still sitting under the counter. His neighbor realized his lights hadn't turned on for 2 nights. When the sheriff's office checked his apartment, everything was in place. Coffee mug in the sink, keys missing, walking jacket gone. The only odd thing, the phone on his nightstand showed a 9:15 p.m. missed call from an unknown number. They pulled the town's security footage, assuming maybe Reeves had been injured or mugged. Instead, what they found unsettled every investigator in the room. The camera footage was analyzed frame by frame. The first oddity appeared on the timestamp. The blur occurred exactly at 9:14:32, right between the second and third recorded frames. The motion sensor, however, should have stayed triggered, but it didn't. It was as if the sensor had lost its subject entirely. The final image before the dropout, the blur, wasn't total static. Forensic enhancement revealed faint streaks of light, angled behind Reeves, almost like something glowing faintly in the trees. Not artificial, not from a flashlight or vehicle, but diffuse, like bioluminescence. Locals called it the shimmer. Investigators called it a motion artifact. But those who lived near the lake said they'd seen that glow before. 3 separate residents reported seeing a strange light near the lake the night Reeves disappeared. One described it as a haze, like fog but brighter. Another, a fisherman, claimed his dog refused to go near the water that night, growling at the trees. And a teenage couple said they heard what they described as slow, rhythmic knocks echoing from the woods long after midnight. When deputies searched the area, they found no signs of struggle, no blood, no drag marks. But they did find something else. A set of footprints, Reeves's, leading straight to the lake shore. But there were no prints returning. The shoreline mud showed no signs of entry. No splash, no slide, just ending. as if he'd vanished where the trail met the water. Weeks later, a maintenance worker reviewing the trail cam network found something missed in the first sweep. A second device, mounted 100 yards north of the lake, had recorded a brief sequence around 9:18 p.m. The timestamp matched 3 minutes after Reeves vanished. The footage showed the empty trail. The wind picked up leaves, the fireflies blinked, and then, faintly, for less than 2 seconds, a human figure appeared at the far edge of the frame. It wasn't clear, but the outline looked off, the shoulders slumped, the movement jerky, and the reflection of light on the water behind it seemed to ripple around the shape, as if distorted. When the image was enhanced, analysts noticed something deeply unsettling. The figure's shadow fell in the wrong direction. During digital forensics of Reeves's laptop, investigators found a folder titled Path Notes. It contained weather logs, topographic maps, and several text files documenting barometric readings from his walks. Most entries were simple. Barometer drop 9:11 p.m., trail mist forming near Reeds, wind southwest. But the final entry, timestamped 9:12 p.m., the night he vanished, contained a single line. "It's back again." There was no context, no previous mention of it. The phrasing suggested he'd seen or heard something before, something recurring, something he expected. The 9:15 p.m. missed call from that night led nowhere. The number traced back to a disconnected landline registered to a property that hadn't been occupied in years, a boathouse once used by the county in the 1980s. When technicians checked the system logs, they found that the call had connected briefly, for 2 seconds, before dropping. And according to the carrier records, the call originated inside the lake's signal dead zone. No active devices could have connected from there. 4 months later, spring thaw revealed something beneath the silt near the lakeshore. A metal object, partially buried. It was a watch. Specifically, a Seiko dive watch, cracked but still attached to its band. It matched the description of the one Reeves wore nightly. The date on the face was stuck at November 3rd. The second hand was still. Inside the watch case, corrosion had created patterns, like salt crystals spreading in fractals. But forensic imaging revealed microabrasions on the inner surface of the case back. Etched faintly by hand were 4 words, "Don't follow the light." The only person who'd claimed to see Reeves after that night was a retired forest ranger named Clint Hayes. He came forward 5 months later, saying he hadn't wanted to be laughed out of town. Hayes had been driving by the lake early the next morning. He said the fog was thick, unnatural, like smoke that never moved. And in the middle of it, he saw what he first thought was a reflection from his headlights. But as he slowed, the light pulsed. Not flashing, breathing, and for a split second, he swore he saw a figure standing inside it. "Could have been a trick of the eyes," he told detectives. "But I'll tell you one thing. I've been in them woods 40 years. Ain't never seen light move like that." 2 months later, during a scheduled system update, the IT department of the sheriff's office found an audio clip stored in the evidence archive, untagged, unlabeled. Its metadata placed it in the same directory as the Reeves trail cam footage. But no one knew who uploaded it. It was a 17-second recording, the sound of footsteps on gravel, a pause, then a faint mechanical hum, low, pulsing, and beneath it, barely audible, a whisper, "You came back." The voice wasn't definitively Reeves's, but voice pattern comparison placed it within a 90% match. The recording's timestamp, 9:14:29 p.m., 3 seconds before the blur. The official report lists Reeves as missing, presumed deceased. Unofficially, theories flooded the town. Some believed he drowned, though the lack of evidence ruled that unlikely. Others said he may have walked into the woods deliberately and disappeared by choice. A small few, mostly those who'd seen the shimmer, believed something else entirely. They spoke of an old legend tied to the lake. A will-o'-the-wisp, they said, a light that calls lonely travelers by name, and when they answer, it takes their shadow. Reeves's apartment was eventually cleared out. The only personal item left unclaimed was a map, marked with dozens of tiny red dots along his nightly route. Each dot corresponded to a place he'd paused, where the barometric readings had shifted slightly. When charted, the points formed a pattern, not random, not natural. It spiraled inward, toward the lake. At the map's center, drawn faintly in pencil, was one final word: home. In September 2022, nearly a year after his disappearance, a local fisherman's dashcam captured a brief clip near the same trail entrance. The footage showed fog drifting across the road, and just before it ended, a faint figure stepped into view. Same jacket, same height, same stride. The clip lasted 1.4 seconds before the feed glitched to black. The fisherman swore he hadn't seen anyone in front of the car. Forensics confirmed no tampering. Months later, a hiker exploring the northern path discovered something embedded under the moss-covered roots of an oak tree, an old dash camera, cracked but memory card intact. It contained one video file. Timestamp November 3rd, 2021, 9:12 p.m. Duration: the footage was shaky, as if recorded from waist height. You could hear footsteps. Then Reeves's voice. "It's close tonight," a pause. "If anyone finds this," static. "Don't trust the light." The clip ended with a low mechanical hum. And then, silence. No body was ever found. No signs of violence, abduction, or accident. The investigation remains technically open, reclassified as an unresolved disappearance. The last known image of Daniel Reeves, the frame before the blur, still hangs on the wall of the Marston Sheriff's Office. And every so often, according to staff, the motion sensor on the evidence monitor trips without cause. Always at 9:14 p.m. He walked the same path every night, until one night, the path walked him back. Hard tells.